Chapter 1. Dragon Days Festival. Trumpets and drum rolls roared throughout the luxurious morning-lit streets of Thortica. The people of this monumental city were bustling and chattering with excitement. Preparations for the Dragon's Day festival were well underway and had been for days. Men and women scrambled to finish the last-minute touches to ensure the city's streets were magnificently decorated. Massive, brightly colored banners hung from nearly every window. Flowers and elegant pottery were arranged neatly along the sides of the freshly swept streets, and ropes were strung from rooftops holding banners stitched with the finest precision across every road. The entire city was buzzing and filled with laughter, dancing, and drinking. These activities at such an early hour celebrated the start of the Dragon Days festival. At face value, with all the carefree joy and laughter, one wouldn't think this festival was tied to a horrific war that ended only 3 short years ago. During this war, the dark elves of Thrane captured hundreds of dragons and their eggs from around the world. They raised the hatchlings from birth, keeping the mothers bound in chains for milk. The young dragons were beaten and forced into submission in the harshest conditions imaginable. The hatchlings' spirits were broken at a very young age. The dark elves used fear and suffering to ensure unquestionable loyalty. Any dragon that couldn't be trusted or did not show complete obedience was killed and used to feed its brothers and sisters. The mothers who could no longer produce milk were also used as meat or ripped from their children and put on the front lines. This nearly led wild dragons to extinction, leaving only the eldest and most powerful dragons behind. After years of scheming and secret preparations, the city of Thrane declared open war against all of Thortica with a seemingly undefeatable army. The war lasted 16 long years before the last dragon was laid to rest, followed by the Shreven elf's leader, Drekel. Bleeding out from his deep wounds, he gazed in hatred as the combined forces of the mid-continent closed in around him. In a rage-filled fury at his army's defeat, he used his last ounce of power to summon an enormous whirlwind of black and purple mists. The smoke-like mists spiraled around him, creating a deadly vortex of potent magic, killing dozens of soldiers instantly, along with any soldier foolish enough to step foot into the hurricane of black magic. Once the soldiers in the immediate vicinity fell, a bright flash of radiant white light burst from around Drekel, blinding approaching soldiers for several moments. When reinforcements arrived and the blinded men regained their sight, his body was nowhere to be found. The remainder of Drekel's army was hunted down and killed on sight. There has been no word from the scouts suggesting any kind of Thrane uprising since that day, and so the festivities continue despite the fact that there has been no word from any scout at all in recent months. Every kingdom in Thortica celebrated this historic day. However, Thortica always put on an especially grand show with fireworks, music, dancing, food, and all the ale one could swallow. The festival drew competitors from all over the world to participate in its many events of skill and strength. From the mightiest gladiators to the most cunning tricksters, people travel from near and far to compete for the recognition of being the best and a large sum of gold to the winner of each activity. But for one boy, winning will bring on the beginning of his biggest loss. Thrane awoke to trumpets blaring from outside his window. He quickly flung his fur covers aside and leaped from his bed to the cold wooden floor. In a daze, he quickly slipped his feet into dingy fur slippers and ran towards his wooden dresser. He slid his hand over his old leather belt that housed his mismatched collection of knives. Thoughts of finally winning the throwing competition were swimming through his mind. Thrane had been practicing for years, with only a few minor setbacks in his self-training. After all, knife throwing was risky business, the slightest wrong move, and it's all over with. At least, that's what his mother would say to him. A queasy feeling formed in his stomach at the thought of a slightly wrong move in front of the entire city. Thrane shook off the doubt and cleared his mind. Hurriedly, he threw his hide and cloth vest over his back, then fastened his belt around his breeches while running for the kitchen. Thrane's mother made the best breakfast, and not even the competition could make him miss it. His spirits lifted as he raised his nose, taking in the sizzling bacon's scent. Caught up in his thoughts, he tripped over a wooden stool and fell to the ground with a thud.